And welcome back to the West Coast Conference 2014-15 Preview Day, the tip-off event here in Los Angeles. I'm George Devine from the W.TV. We're now joined by the Pacific Tigers head coach Lynn Roberts and Haley Echols. An exciting year last year for Pacific. Are you going to pick up where you left off in terms of success? You've had a great run the last few years.
We have, thank you. Yeah, we hope to. That's always the plan. We were preseason picked 4th this year. So we finished last year 3rd, so we're excited about the year.
Haley was a big part of your team last year. I really liked the energy she brought into games. And, you know, she mixed it up, starting lineup, coming off the bench. But your team just played with a lot of energy and intensity last year and really had a good wave in the second half. You always, about that 14-minute mark, had exactly what it took to win. Yeah,
I was proud of our team last year. I think coming into a new conference, it was a lot more challenging than I think we thought it was going to be. I mean, you just don't know what to expect, and it was really tough. Every night, new team that you're not used to playing, and so that was tough. But our players, I thought they did just a tremendous job of not letting that be a factor or an excuse or anything like that. So Haley was a big part of that. She does play with a little swagger, we like to say. And she can knock down shots, get up, very athletic. And the exciting thing is that she's had, all of our returning players have had great off seasons. So we finished 3rd, which was great, but no one sets out, to finish 3rd in anything. So we want to get better.
Haley, I was reading a stat about you the other night. You had 3 4-point plays last year, which tells me people really respect you as a 3-point shooter if they're going to get out and foul you, and then you still make the shot.
Yeah, that is an interesting stat. It's news to me, but it's cool.
Well, you lived it.
Excuse me?
You lived that stat.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't even know that they kept that stat. But, yeah, I guess now that I think about it, I may have fallen on some threes 3 or 4 times throughout the year.
I don't know if we call that flopping. Do we call that flopping?
No. I mean, I don't.
Is it a World Cup here?
It's a little World Cup in Spanos Arena.
Now, looking at your ball club, one of the players I like to watch the most in the WCC is Kendall Kenyon, and just a tremendous natural rebounder. How much fun is it to play with Kendall?
It's pretty fun. She's a great person, one of my best friends. She's super athletic, probably the fastest post in the conference. You want to call her a post. But, no, she's a great player, and makes our team a lot better.
Yeah, you mentioned the speed, and I look at the agility, I look at the way the feet move, and she's exceptional at getting in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, she is. I don't know that there's anybody better in our conference in that. She is incredibly quick, but she's not a true post either. But she has made herself a great player, Kendall Kenyon has. She wasn't super highly recruited, and she's made it a point to make everybody regret that she wasn't highly recruited. So she's had a great offseason as well, got stronger, worked on her skill, but I think she's set to have a great year.
And you basically found her in the neighborhood. She went to high school right down the street at St. Mary's.
Stockton, which has been great. Stockton produces some of the best high school girls basketball in the country. I mean, seriously, there's some great players there, so we try to keep the local ones, the talented ones there. Unique Coleman on our team, she's from St. Mary's as well. She's going to have a breakout year this year, her sophomore year, so we like to keep the talented ones in town.
And if you make that local circle a little bigger, Haley comes from the San Jose area, Pinewood School in Los Altos, played for the great Doc Shepler, one of the best girls basketball coaches in the country. What attracted you to Pacific?
Well, when I came on my visit, I hadn't really heard of Pacific before, but when I got on the campus, I was like, wow, how did I not know about Pacific? The campus is beautiful. I found out the class sizes and how prestigious it was academically, and then I met the coaching staff, and then I met the players, and it just kind of a nice package, and I knew right away that I'd gotten pretty lucky and accepted my offer.
And how about playing in the West Coast Conference? What do you like the most about this conference in terms of the teams you play against, the quality of play?
Quality of play is extremely high. Every game's competitive, and you just kind of always have to be on your toes.
Lynn, we talked with Paul Thomas earlier from St. Mary's about maybe this being maybe a 2 or 3 NCAA bid year for the West Coast Conference. What do you see as the key to getting multiple teams into March Madness?
Well, I think without question it's at least a 2-team conference in the NCAA, if not 3. It comes down to scheduling, and I'm sure that's what Paul Thomas said as well. But unfortunately, if you're not in one of the the 5 big football conferences, you don't get the national recognition that is deserved. And so I would take teams in our conference going against a lot of those big BCS schools, my money would be on them, on our teams doing well. So this is a competitive league. We deserve it. It's going to come down to just scheduling and our teams in the West Coast Conference upsetting the more brand name schools. That's what's going to continue to, which is already happening. It's not like that doesn't happen. We just got to continue to do it, and it's got to be across the board, not just a couple schools. And
your program is looking to go to its 4th postseason in a row. You've been to the WNIT the last 3 years. How much does that experience help you and your student athletes?
It's great. It's been really good. This year we had kind of an early exit, earlier than we thought. We had kind of planned on, but the year before we had made it pretty deep in the 4th round, I think. So, it helps a lot, and it just is nice to keep playing. But and the WNIT is awesome, but we of course want to make the NCAA tournament.
Haley, how about you for playing in the postseason, the WNIT? Win or go home? Does that make you a better player?
Oh, definitely. Anytime you get to play more games, you become a better player, and it's nice to after that loss that would potentially end your season, you kind of have something to look forward to be able to keep playing with your teammates and those seniors and stuff. So it's been nice the last 3 years to keep playing when you think you might be done, but you're not.
The coaches in the West Coast Conference selected Pacific to finish 4th. How do you feel about that pick? I mean, do you think that's on the money, or is there room for improvement?
Well, I think that's probably about what I would have expected. I think that we're still the new kid on the block in some regard, and we finished 3rd last year, which is great. But I don't think we've earned much more than that in terms of preseason recognition. So I always tell players it's great, whatever you end up preseason, but let's focus on what the final poll is in March. That's what matters. So we just got to get better one game at a time, and take it as it comes. But 4th place is,
Yeah, I always like to look at that preseason poll here in October,
right.
November, and then pair it up at the end of February, beginning of March,
right.
and say, okay, how did they do?
Right.
How did the coaches pick them? And is there a sleeper in the group this year?
I think, again, this is only our 2nd year, but obviously I've played against these teams a lot. Everybody's getting better. There's some new coaches in the conference, and so that's going to add some question marks in terms of, what do they get? What style of play will they have? How are their players that they've inherited going to respond? Who else did they bring in? So there's some question marks there, but I think they're all good question marks, and I think it's going to be a tough year again. I think if there's a sleeper, I don't know about. I think every game's going to be tough. I don't think there's going to be such thing as a sleeper. I think everybody's going to be competitive. I really do.
Let's take a look a minute for the scheduling. What does your non-conference schedule look like?
We have a good non-conference schedule. We open up at home against Cal, which at our place, which is good. We lost in overtime at their place last year, so we have them coming to our place. They are obviously very good, but we play Montana at home, Iona. Iona has a first-team preseason All-American on their team. That'll be tough. We've got I really like our non-conference schedule, but it's going to test us. It'll really challenge us, and we'll see where we stand as we head into West Coast Conference. But that's the idea. We can't schedule easy and then expect to compete in this conference.
Haley, we're looking at the schedule for the Tigers, and 2nd year in the WCC. We've got about a minute left here. Is there a rivalry developing with anybody in the conference that you're seeing as players?
Yeah, with every team. Every game's competitive, and every time we go up against a new opponent, we're expecting something different because game plans change, and it's just it's never the same team again. So you kind of can't have one rival. You kind of have to be rivals with everybody.
Well, good luck to you, the Pacific Tigers, Lynn Roberts, Haley Eccles. The Tigers trying to go to the postseason for the 4th year in a row. Their campaign begins in November, as Lynn mentioned, against California, and they open conference play at San Francisco on December the 27th. Remember, you can follow the Tigers and everybody else in the West Coast Conference by going to the W.TV from any computer or mobile device. Keep you up to date 24/7. We're back with more after this. Pepperdine Waves coming up.